course leader of the MA Digital Media, Culture and Society. Welcome to the four of you. I know some other students will be joining later this morning, so we may need to pause to get them into the conversation. We're also recording the session for those who are not joining today via Skype, and for you also to refer back to. I'd like to introduce the team that is here now, and then I'll just go on to introduce the course to you. If that's okay, I'll start with Wesley. I think you will need to move because you're not in the camera.
This one? Hello, I'm Lefteris.
Bye.
And Paula.
Hello, nice to meet you all.
Olu.
Hello.
And Julia.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Frauke.
Hello, everyone.
Great, so you will have an opportunity to hear from everybody when they introduce the modules. Paula will say bye, but Paula may be your dissertation supervisor at a later stage, and she's also teaching in the MJM 01, which is the research methods module.
I just wanted to say hello. So one of my roles here is I'm the academic programme leader in this part of the School of Media. So I work closely with Aristea to help put the degree that you're doing together, and hopefully I'll speak to you more when we do research methods. But I just really wanted to welcome you on board. It's a great MA and look forward to hearing how you all get on.
Fantastic, thank you, Paula.
And I will run away, but I'll leave you to it, and I just wanted to say hello. Enjoy your session.
So today, you can see my crutches. This is because I had a windsurfing accident on Sunday and I had a knee injury. So I have a little bit of a mobility issue here. That's why we are all sitting down. So today what we're doing is I'm going to be doing an overview of the course so that you know some more details about the course. Then we're going to have the outline of the modules by all the module leaders. I don't think we will do the short break because in this session we don't have any on-campus students, so we'll skip the short break today. Sasha, who is the MA course administrator, will be here to give you some directions as to what kind of support the admin team can provide. And then we'll have the library support team talking to you about how you can use the library for your postgraduate research. Then you will have an opportunity to ask some questions, and if you have changed your mind in the meantime about what modules you want to take this semester, then you can do so at that point, and then we will just end the session. Any questions so far?
No.
Yeah. On our line we also have Maria Surbati. She's in London at the moment. So Maria, if you would like to say hi as well.
Yes, good. Hello, I'm Maria Surbati. I'm joining you from, I'm sitting on a chair in London, South London, UK, and yes, I am teaching in this MA, but at the moment I'm on research leave. Yes, so my little accident, yes, this morning was that our car was, window was smashed, so I may receive a call. Don't worry that, I need to answer some questions. So yes, I'm really excited to be joining you this morning.
Great, thank you, Maria. Just a few words about the course aims and what we want to do in this course. So what we aim to do is to develop students' capacity to analyze and critique and also participate in media debates, and also in debates around practice, and to get you to know and familiarize yourselves with the key concepts that are at the moment in contemporary media studies. We also aim to develop students' ability to identify and also to use, to deploy relevant cultural, social, theoretical, professional and practice-based frameworks that allow them to operate successfully in media contexts, creative contexts and media contexts, both in global and in local economies. So the course also aims to navigate the continuity and discontinuity across analog and digital media, theory and practice. So we aim to show through historical overviews and studies how we have passed from analog to digital media and how they inform each other, and to develop a range of practice, collaborative and professional skills relevant to the creative media sector. We also aim to enable students to undertake further research to doctoral level, so if this is something that you consider, then definitely this MA will equip you with the skills, the research skills that you need to take your studies and your career to a further academic step. So I know that you all of you have a sense of what you want to do this semester and next semester, but I need to be very clear about the structure of the MA. So there are three compulsory modules. So there is the MJM Practicing Media Research that Olu teaches, Olu convenes, and this one is 20 credits. So you need overall 180 credits to complete your MA. You may decide to finish your studies earlier. If you do, then you can still exit either with a postgraduate certificate, which is only 60 credits, or a diploma, a postgraduate diploma. So this is when you don't do your dissertation in the end. So depending on your life situation and what is happening exactly to you, or how things go, you may decide to not finish the entire MA, but actually leave a little bit earlier. That's absolutely fine, and everything will, everything will help you do that. Everyone will help you to do that if you decide to do so. But there are still these mandatory modules that you need to take. So you need to take the Practicing Media Research, and this needs to be taken before you do your dissertation. The MJM 06 Professional Media Practice is also 20 credits. This is something that is taught in semester 2. And then finally, for your MA, you need to take the 60 credit module that is the dissertation. If you don't want to, like I said, graduate with an MA, but you are going to do just the certificate or the diploma, then it's fine to not take the dissertation. So usually what happens is you take your, if you are in a full-time study mode, then you would take all your modules in semester 1 and semester 2, and then during the summer term you would do your dissertation, which would be submitted in September, and then you would finish your MA in one full-time year. But if you are in part-time mode, then you can choose what you take when you take it. So you can start with your electives. I will talk to you about the electives in a minute, and then decide to do your research methods and the professional media practice module. So full-time students, like I said, also can take 2 electives, so they have to take the compulsory modules, but also can take 2 electives in each semester, so 2 in semester 1 and 2 in semester 2. So part-time and distance learning students can choose the order in which they take their modules, like I said, and also how many in each semester. But the dissertation module should always be the final one that you take in your study. So continuing with a module overview. So the core modules, like I said, are the Practicing Media Research, the Professional Media Practice, and the Dissertation Project. And then the modules that we offer this year are the Big Data, Culture and Society module that I teach, that I convene, Digital Cities, that Frauke will kindly introduce in a minute, but is convened by Maria Sorbati this year, who is on the line. There is also Social and Digital Media Activism that is led by Lefteris. The Sonic Media module that is led by Wesley. Participatory Media Production for Social Change, that is led by Julia. And this one is not being offered to distance learning students because you have to be based on campus to participate in this module. And then we have 2 modules that you can take. Again, these are not appropriate for distance learning students because you have to be based here. These are from different programs. So Digital Media and Web Technologies is from the program MA Digital Media Arts, and Cultural Theory is from the program MA Cultural and Critical Theory. And again, these 2 modules, if you decide to change your mode of study to full-time, and you can actually attend seminars and lectures here, then again we will have to discuss your choice, and we will have to discuss this with the module leaders from the other programs, and and be accepted to the module, because sometimes there are too many students, or the module may not run, or they may think that your interests are not really compatible with the rest of the group. But this is something to discuss, as and when and if. Yeah. Okay, so thinking about the modules in terms of the semesters that they are being offered this year, and this of course may change next year. So this year for semester 1 you can take Social and Digital Media Activism, Sonic Media, and the Digital Media and Web Technologies from the other program. And for semester 2 we offered Big Data, Culture and Society, Digital Cities, Participatory Media Production for Social Change, and Cultural Theory. These are your choices, your elective choices. Okay, so how do you learn? What do we do? So as you know now, we are on Skype, but this is also being recorded, and it's going to be uploaded on Student Central for you to reach. You can tell me later if you have managed to now be on Student Central, because this seemed to be a problem for some of you. So this is our blended mode of studying. This means that we offer our courses on campus, but also we facilitate students who are located distantly, remotely, and we do that via Skype. That is real time, but for some students this is not possible. It's not possible to participate in real time because of work or other commitments. So we record the session. Some module leaders choose to do that using podcasts. Some choose to do that using video recordings. This is something that to consider when you hear the introductions to each module. We use Student Central a lot. And this means that you will get lots of notifications from module leaders about what is happening each week, what it is you need to study, what it is that you need to prepare. There are forums that module leaders set up, and this means that there are discussions that you will need to participate in. Usually you will be given a particular slot, like a week for example, within which you have to submit your comments and questions. The lectures, most of the lectures will be recorded, and again you will be able to access the material at your own pace. If you, for example, work during the week and you only can have time to study during the weekend, that's an option. We also use EduBlogs, so this is something that many module leaders choose to do, where you you participate in discussions or do your writing on using the blogs. So EduBlogs are just they use the WordPress platform, but they are hosted from within the University of Brighton, so they are still institutional. It's not just the WordPress platform for it. So we do aim and hope that we can develop a postgraduate community. This always depends on the the constitution of the group on an annual basis. So, for example, last year we had a mix of on-campus full-time students and distance learning students. This year, the majority is distance learning students. So this means that you are located in different places in the world, and this perhaps is a challenge in terms of building a community, because you can meet face-to-face and join research events that are happening here at the university. And this is the reason that we've set up some online presence which I really strongly encourage you to join. I know that there are mixed feelings about Facebook and using Facebook for teaching and learning. I'm not encouraging you to use it for teaching and learning, but to connect with each other. So there is the Facebook group, it's a student group, but most of us are also part of that group. It's a closed group, so it's not a public group. So people who are not part of the course cannot really join it. So this is to facilitate discussion between you, because you may not meet each other in the same, if you're not taking the same modules, for example. So it would be a nice place to share information and news about things that are happening perhaps in your environment, your work, or your interests. There's also the Twitter page, which again I encourage you to follow. There is a Facebook page as well, which kind of mirrors what I'm posting on Twitter. And then again there is the MA blog. And this, again, I really strongly encourage you to become authors. So to send, I can either enroll you, so you can just automatically go online and post your stories and your content about things that you want to write about. Or if that's something that you have trouble with, you can send me the material, I can post it online. But ideally you would have some familiarity publishing on blogs. This is, it's something very mainstream, so I would really encourage you to use that platform and to make this yours in a way. For now, I'm just posting some news and some interesting stories, but I'd really like this to become a student space. Okay, thank you. So this is my email. You can contact me at any time. I aim to get back to you within 48 hours. This is not always possible because of the the mixed commitments that we all have. But yeah, I will aim to get back to you about anything. I'm also your personal tutor, so I've been allocated as your personal tutor, and this means that for any kind of issues that may have to do with uncertainties about the course, or about career, or about personal circumstances or financial circumstances, and obviously I'm not the finance department, you're not going to resolve issues with me, but I can refer you to someone or advise about something. I'm also the one who will sign your extension forms if you need an extension for an assignment. So if there are circumstances that don't really allow you to submit your assignment on time, then I will have to grant you an extension. But this is, of course, you will need to submit some documentation from a credible and official source, like for example a doctor, if there are circumstances that don't allow you to submit your assignments on time.
How many people are out there? Sorry, I'm Nance and I arrived late. How many people are there? I can see you.
Yeah.
Have we got three?
We have three, four.
Four, someone's just hidden. Right, I'm Nance, you're going to get me in the second semester, and I'm going to talk about digital creative and professional practice. I don't know whether to talk to the camera or to your faces on the screen. Yeah, I know, it's distracting. So it's a module that's really looking at how the circumstances in which people actually engage with work and the factors that influence practitioners, and it's kind of really located in the circumstances in which media texts are created and the pragmatic decisions people make, and how I think sometimes when people just examine the text or like look at an audience response, they forget the circumstances that led to the creation of those texts and what people have to go through to make things. And that can be in terms of personal pressures, the nature of the work can put pressure on people and change their decisions. There could be external political pressures, social pressures. Companies and organisations can have frameworks, cultures that make certain people behave in certain ways. It's a module that's really kind of rolling up its sleeves and looking at how people produce cultural and digital artifacts. And from my point of view, I found it really exciting because actually I work part-time as a professional practitioner and I work at the BBC. And as an academic, at first I never saw the people making these connections. I thought, okay, it's all very well reading these papers, talking about how people make these things, talking about the text, what these things are, but I'm never seeing anyone talking about who and how they were made and the very tangential processes that can lead to that. And then when I started to look at the writing of people like Andrew Ross and David Hesmhal, who will study, it goes like, this is the world that I recognise. If any of you have worked as practitioners, have worked in industry, or are doing studies looking at the work of practitioners, you're kind of like, it was almost, you'll kind of be familiar with this too, and it's like a sort of, they were talking about a set of circumstances that I hadn't seen analysed before. So how do we do that? We're going to look at the theorists and across a number of subjects over a number of weeks, but a big thing is you guys are going to be going out and interviewing people, and and also we're looking at teaching you qualitative research techniques. So you'll go out, interview people, draw back data, analyse those interviews, which is actually a fantastic way of your making contacts too, and actually all going back to old contacts, or getting really involved in a particular area of work or a professional practice that is of interest to you. So it's very located in what people are actually doing, and you're going out and reaching out to people and meeting people and talking to them, and then also bringing that back and then learning how to do grounded theory and extrapolate ideas and work out what people are really saying underneath what they're talking about. Examples, what people have done in the past, we had someone did the changing circumstances of journalists at local newspapers as digitisation comes in and pushes people out, and what happened to the working conditions of journalists. Someone last year did a paper about artists coming over from the People's Republic of Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo. So Congolese artists coming over and having to work within Western institutions and work with Western galleries, and how they kind of stayed in touch with each other and how they kind of managed their personal relationships. One person did an interesting piece about bloggers and food bloggers in particular, and looking at the reality of working within that environment and trying to turn that into a career and a profession. Technical workers in the Italian fashion industry. That was really interesting because it turned out that a lot of the photographers and workers, they weren't finding the very traditional way that people found work over in Italy. They were suspicious of social media. And it was very much down to like people meeting at parties and making connections. So that all came out, those sort of pieces of information come out from interviews, come out from meeting people and discussing it, and then we come back together and analyse it. And the module will run partly with be recording audio pieces for you, podcasts, and they'll be on a fortnightly basis, and then lots of discussion with me, looking at how you're making your connections, how you're organising your interviews, and how you're reaching out with people. So kind of a lot of talk back with me, a lot of tutorial time as well. So that's about it. I'm Ross, and I'll see you second semester for that module. Okay.
Fantastic, thank you, Lance.
So, hello, I'm Wesley. I'm an artist and PhD researcher. And the Sonic Media module, which I'll be delivering this coming term, is really a way of looking at how Sonic Media is this really interesting lens to look through at technology and culture and society, in a way that I think is very revealing of the way that these technologies get embedded in our lives, in a way that Sonic Media, when I say Sonic Media, I mean things like from Spotify to the phonograph, for example. All these different media forms that involve sound in some sense, or dominantly involve sound, but we will also touch on other things like television where sound came in a very interesting way. And really what the course tries to get us all to think about is the way that the social construction of these technologies, of things like the phonograph, so for example, how frequently female voices were components of early recordings. Because of the limitations of the recording method, you actually got a very specific frequency range that came into how those technologies both recorded sound and reproduced it, which meant there was a dominance for a time of female performers in the industry, even while this industry was heavily controlled by a very kind of traditional hegemonic white male power base, and continues to be to this day. So there's this very interesting tension between the kind of content creators in that sense and the power base. And we still see the parallels in that today when we look at things like Spotify and we analyse who owns that platform and who stands to benefit from the way that media is shared across it. So really the course is looking at all these very deep kind of textual levels and textural levels that you can get at the world through sonic media. And I think it's a really fascinating way to think about how these things which are very much embedded as part of our everyday lives, it being one of the media forms that I think arguably people interact with the most on a daily basis. Although pretty much everybody in every form of media claims that their particular media focus is the one they want to engage with, of course. But I do think it's a really interesting way to think through how the shifts in those technologies and the shifts in those industries have been reflected in where we are at now. I mean, this is a very new course. This will be the second year it's been taught, and it was written very much around contemporary engagement with the way these technologies function today. So the engagement isn't with a kind of a purely historical notion or an 80s or 90s notion of what that industry is and what sonic media is, but really does kind of get to grips and pinions everything and pulls all this back to how that reflects to the contemporary moment and where we can imagine the near future of that moment to go. So a little bit on the kind of the questions that come up, things like how has the changing definitions of noise and silence over the last 100 years. I mean, if we think about, for example, the Beatles at one point being considered to be completely cacophonous noise by a large section of like a Western population, versus today, we see how that is a very socially constructed term, although it's kind of presented as being this very definite fixed point. So we engage with those questions of what is noise and silence, and one of the ways we engage with it through the course is by making things ourselves. So this isn't a practice course, but it will ask you to kind of wade in a little bit and get your hands a little bit dirty with the mechanisms of recording and of sound reproduction. So I may ask you to say, bring in a sample that you've recorded. It could just be with, you know, a phone microphone. It doesn't need to be, this isn't a technical exercise about how good you are at doing these things, it's more about to get you thinking. But I might ask you to bring in, for example, a recording of what you consider to be noise, and then we'll bring those in front of everyone and describe and maybe contrast all the different ways that we see noise functioning in the world. So there's little kind of gestures towards a kind of a hands-on engagement, but then the assessments themselves also mix with that slightly. So the first assessment, which is halfway through the module, about November, the hand-ins end of November, that will be a 2,000 words piece that also includes an interview. So you interview a subject of your choice on a topic of your choice and speak to that person or those people, and then transcribe that interview and then write about the process of doing the interview and how that relates to these kind of very sticky politics of interviewing and trying to, the capture of the voice and the replaying of that, how you frame the authority of the voice through your choices in, say, editing. You know, do you leave in all the ums and ahs that person may have naturally had in their speech? But if you leave in, you engage with the fact that we normally have those things taken out in a lot of refined interviews. So are you making your subjects feel less authoritative, or are you making them seem more human and relatable? So there's all these interesting politics that come into that moment. The second assessment at the end of the module is a 3,000 word research project where you, in discussion with myself, we pick out what's been interesting for you over the course of those 11 weeks. And then you write a 3,000 word paper on that, so you kind of really get to grips with what your interest is in that, how that relates to your specific background, your political interests or your philosophical interests, whatever you'll be bringing to the course. So it's a course I'm really, really excited to be delivering again this year. The interactions that came out of the first cohort last year were really interesting. The discussions in the seminars are always so fascinating because these are media which I think people feel very intimate to, because they're very typically emotive media forms we engage with, you know, the framing of sound as a way of colouring environment. And so I bring in my own sound art practice, which focuses mostly around the politics of data and how we interact with that through different aesthetics, including sound, will come heavily into the course as well. So we're going to be tackling with it from both a practitioner and a theoretical perspective to try to unpack this kind of sticky thing of sonic media. Thanks very much.
Hello everyone, is that a good view?
Great, yeah.
Great, yeah, good. I don't have any slides, so, alright, so I'm just going to talk to you. So, my name is Ola Jensen, and I'm the module leader for your methodology module, which is called Practicing Media Research. The reason it's got that title is, well, two reasons really. Firstly, that you will see media research methods and methodologies in action, if you like, or practiced through a set of researchers' own fields of research expertise and use of various research methodologies in their own projects. And secondly, because it is also all about you orientating yourself in terms of methods and methodologies with the purpose of then practicing these in your research project, your dissertation project. So this module is very much linked, if you like, to your own independent research project module. It is a sort of preparational module, if you like. And I'm very keen for you to get exposed to a whole range of different methods and methodologies in order for you to learn about them, but also for you to get excited and inspired in terms of what is possible to do within the framework of your own interest, your own research interest and project plans. So when we do the assessment tasks, we will be very much aiming to link these to your own practice, your own ideas and visions for your project under development. So it's very much sort of a worthwhile opportunity to actually get started and make some headway in terms of your project module that will follow later. I hope that makes sense, how the two modules link up. So how is this module taught? Well, it's taught via a series of online sessions. We have, the first session is going to be a live session or a filmed session, which is my introductory session in week 1. And then the final session, also wrapping up the module, is delivered in a similar mode. So for those of you who can attend on campus, those will be the two opportunities to attend, but they will obviously also be accessible remotely, as everything on this course is. And then, but in between that, the module is taught via pre-recorded sessions. That is then complemented by an online discussion session, which is an obligatory point of engagement for you, by which I mean that you will have a weekly assessed online engagement as part of your assessment. So the online engagement makes up 50% of your final mark on this module. So that's ongoing throughout the module, a very nice way of sort of partitioning up your workload. And then towards the end of the module there is a 5,000 word essay that is also sort of an opportunity for you to dig deeper into a particular set of methods and methodologies that you're interested in pursuing, perhaps for your dissertation to come. The module covers a range of different topics, and each week is hosted by a different host. So I will deliver some sessions on this module as module leader, particularly sort of the introductory and framework style sessions. And then you will have an opportunity to meet a wide range of researchers here at the University of Brighton who are all experts within very different fields of media and culture studies research. So you will see on Student Central and in your guiding documentation a presentation of who they are and what their areas of expertise are. So this is an obligatory module, a mandatory module, whatever vocabulary.
It is mandatory.
Mandatory is the word that we use for yourself. So just to give you a sort of short taster of the topics that we cover. So we cover things like key approaches to media research, visual analysis and visual research methods and methodologies from a number of different perspectives, a wide range of ethnographic approaches. We hone in on things that are specific for doing research in a digital media landscape, so digital media research methods, so things that are particularly suited for researching digital media, but also using digital media as a tool for conducting research, if you like. We have aspects of sound. You will be just being told about, you know, the opportunities for exploring sound more on this course. So also researching sound and the methodologies associated with that. Critical discourse analysis. So a very sort of tried and tested approach within media studies, but one that you will see being utilised in a very innovative way. And then we also have aspects of audience research covered, and some aspects of what I would call creative method and methodologies, engaging participants in your research. An important area that we will also cover in this module is media research ethics, or research ethics, if you like, which I will take you through, which has got interesting discussion aspects, but also real practical concerns for anyone designing a research project involving participants, human participants, in any shape or form, online, offline, remotely, or face-to-face. So I think that's pretty much what I would like to cover by way of introducing this module to you, and I look forward to meeting you again in the first week of teaching.
Fantastic, thank you.
Hello, my name is Eleftherios Zenerian, and I'll just say a few things about myself first, and then I would want to introduce this module that I deliver in this term, which is titled Social and Digital Media Activism. So my research, I have been involved in research in different disciplines and different fields, such as the sociology of work in the digital media industries. I have done some work on some research on big data and how big data can be used by local communities, and I have also now my current research is on cultural forms of resistance and popular music. Now this module, I'll just say a few words about the module I'm delivering this term. The aim of the module is to introduce, to investigate how activists use social and digital media to represent themselves and to organize. That is the module in very, very broad terms. As you can understand, this is a very interesting and a very important topic. We live in times of where we face lots of very important political challenges, and we live in times where digital media have infiltrated many different aspects of our everyday lives. So I think it is very, very important to be able to evaluate how what is the potential, what is the liberatory potential of digital and social media, and at the same time to be able to evaluate, to understand its shortcomings, how it is situated within different kinds of social, economic, technological, cultural structures that might be affecting this liberatory potential. We will explore all those different things through a series of case studies. So we will look at contemporary social movements, such as the Black Lives Matter movement, contemporary feminist organizations, women's organizations that try to politicize aspects that in the past were considered to be out of the world of politics, such as motherhood and other things that have been assigned to the domestic sphere. And we will also try to evaluate how activists are using social media in new ways, and new forms of activism have emerged, such as hacktivism, okay, Anonymous, WikiLeaks, and this kind of things. So I think that this is a very interesting and important module, and it will be delivered in online and offline mode, as you know. So all the materials, reading materials, will be available, will be made available online. I will be recording the lectures, and they will be available online. And then we are going to have lots of discussions on forums that will be published on Student Central. That's it. A few words maybe about the assessment. So we have one assessment which will be a case study. You will have to do your own original research, and you will have to identify a social movement in which you are interested, and investigate the ways in which they use social and digital media to organize and to represent themselves. How social movements become the media, right? And we will also, and then there is another assessment which is more of a theoretical piece where you will be reflecting critically on a specific aspect of social media scholarship. So that's it, I think. Hopefully see you in the see you next week. And
hello everyone. I'm not sure. Can you see me? Can everyone see me? Yes, and can everyone hear me too?
Absolutely, yes.
Excellent. I'm Julia, as you already know by now. It does feel a bit surreal. You know, we're all here and you're all online. It's a strange, you know, but I don't know if you could turn the camera around briefly. We've got all these chairs behind us where no one is sitting. So I have to be honest, I've never done an induction like this before. So it's quite an interesting experience for us, but we are filming it so you can also look through this all again. As you will have heard from Aristea, my module is not an online module. This one at least isn't. I do teach into the module that Olu leads, the research methods module, and one of the sessions, I think it's session 9, looks at aspects of the module that I will talk to you next. So if you can't do my module, my bigger semester 2 module, at least you will get a flavour for it in the research methods session that I run. My module is called Participatory Media Production for Social Change, and the focus is very much on the word participatory. It's an inclusive, collaborative model. We engage with communities, local, national, and international communities. Our theme is resilience. So we've been working for, this module has run for 8 years, but every year we change the theme. Last year we used the theme resilience for the first time and decided it was such a powerful one. As has already been mentioned before, we live in very difficult political times, and resilience is increasingly essential to our existence. So this module is a creative module, and you will have the opportunity to use photography, video and sound, or theatre even if you wanted to, and the photo voice technique, but it's also a theoretical module because the first couple of sessions are used to frame and historicize the use of collaborative media, and I try to make it as international as I can. So we look at practitioners like Paulo Freire, who developed the idea, the methodology of popular education. He was a Brazilian practitioner who in turn influenced Auguste Boal, who was also a Brazilian theatre practitioner. And we also look at the work of Lillier, a Chinese activist, at the work of Deborah Barnt, who is a Canadian-American activist and academic, and the Highlander Centre. We look at a whole host of different organizations who have made work in collaborative ways. Behind me on the slide, not sure if you can see this, you have an image of Voice of Witness. They actually do interviews and work with people whose voices have traditionally been silenced or not given much space. The Highlander Centre here, which is a research and education centre, which was instrumental in the US within the human rights and union movement. I'm also, I should have said, I'm a photographer as well as an academic and researcher and an activist. If we could go to the next slide, please. So we start with the work of Paulo Freire, who said if the structure does not permit dialogue, the structure must be changed, which is really at the heart of popular education. It is about developing new systems, new ways of knowing and being that make change possible. This in turn is closely connected to the work of Deborah Barnt, who will be coming here next week. So for anyone who is able to come to Brighton next week, I will in a moment tell you about 2 upcoming sessions that you could come to join us. One is a masterclass, one is an afternoon session. Deborah's work is all about naming the moment. She says that any experience is conjunctural, and at any particular point in history, different political, cultural, social experiences come together, and by naming the moment and connecting ourselves to these moments, we learn more about how globalization, how local issues impact on our own lives, and how we can affect those in turn ourselves. This is just a slide to show you Lily Years. She's a wonderful practitioner. If you don't take this module, look her work up anyway. We look at the use of participatory video and participatory photography. If I could just have the next slide, please. And as I said, the students make work in response to the theme of resilience, and then in turn develop their own collaborative projects. This is just a piece made last year by one of the students on the module. It's called the Sewing Project. She collaborated with a group of older women and explored how aging is affecting the question of visibility and invisibility of women, because her experience had been that suddenly she didn't feel seen or noticed anymore as she got older. And she made a beautiful piece using fabric and images and stitching and embroidery, and collaboratively also made a collective quilt. If we could have the next slide, please. In one of the sessions, but again, this is part of the reason why it can't be taught online, we use the fantastic media suite downstairs. There's a professional radio space, a film space, and the students make a collaborative film jointly on the theme of resilience. And here you see 2 students from last year, as well as the fantastic media technician downstairs who can help out with anything if you need to. Another slide. So this module has been based around a lot of different popular education technologies and ideas, and one of the instrumental thinkers is Deborah Barnt. I actually studied with Deborah in Canada at York University nearly 25 years ago, which is horrible to say. And she is coming to Brighton next week. It's the first time she's coming to the UK in, I think, as many years. And she will be running 2 workshops, one a masterclass and one seminar in the afternoon together with CUP, the Community University Partnership project. So you could come to both. One is from 10 to 12 and one is from 2 to 4. I've put up the 2 slides. One looks at a very innovative use of fotonovelas, or photo stories, and that session explores how can these traditionally analog photo stories now in the digital world be used in activist ways. So digital storytelling, use of digital photo stories, and the last slide. Well, this is actually from the fotonovela stories. The other presentation in the afternoon looks at a very innovative activism around food and environmental issues. She devised a project called the Legacy Project, where she collaborated with workers in Mexico who come to Canada as migrants, workers in the US and workers in Canada, including people from within the First Nation community, around ethical food production. So her session will be based around sharing innovative methodologies that she's used to make that possible, and also will show her video, which you could view yourself online. I could make that available if you can't come to either of these sessions. I won't go through the assignments. They range, and you could look through the syllabus, but there are 4 different ones, and each should tap into one different way of knowing and making. So it includes an essay, but the other 3 are visually based. Please, if you have any questions, get in touch. And if you can't take this module, at the very least, we will meet again in November when you do the research methods section. I hope that's given you a sense for this module, which I should also add can be taken by students all across the campus. So last year we had students from inclusive arts, craft, digital media, as well as this course. So you meet other students from across the university if you take this module. Thank you.
Welcome again, everyone. I also wanted to say welcome to all of you in the MA on behalf of the school, because in addition to teaching on the MA and on the undergraduates, I'm also the Deputy Head of School for Research and Enterprise. So in that function, I'd also like to extend a very warm welcome from the school. Welcome to the postgraduate community in the School of Media. And you've already heard that there are events going on, such as the one that Julia has just introduced, that are on offer for the whole postgraduate community within the School of Media. So that goes beyond just this MA, but it also includes students from other MAs and PhD students. So you'll also be part of that community within the School of Media, and we'll all kind of keep you updated as to what events are happening within the school. And of course you will also be exposed to the research expertise of all the staff, not just the ones teaching on the MA, but you've also got access to the wider staff base within the School of Media. Okay, I think I've got some slides up now. So this is for the module MGM20, Digital Cities, which runs in the 2nd semester. So that's one of the modules you can choose for your 2nd semester. And this is really to kind of introduce you to the concepts of digital cities, of smart cities, of, I haven't got them printed out, I'm afraid. But it's basically looking at all digital media, all data, all kinds of developments around that happen within the urban contexts. So it asks how are cities changing, how is our experience of cities changing, and how is the design and the politics around cities changing when they are full of digital media, when they're full of data, generating data. Yeah, basically cities have data coming out of their ears these days. And if you could go on to the next one. And a particular focus of this module is on the kind of commercial and creative engagement with public and urban spaces. So students on this module that are kind of more interested in the commercial side of digital culture and society might look more at examples and case studies of how corporate engagement with digital cities happens, what kind of screens we have to look at in public spaces, for example, what kind of advertising gets generated for urban screens, those kinds of things. And other students might be more interested in a kind of creative, artistic engagement with digital cities. And they might be more interested to pick up on examples and case studies of how artists and designers have engaged, maybe in a more critical way than some of the commercial examples, with digital cities. If you go forward to the next one. The module is very interdisciplinary, so you will get some readings and concepts and ideas from media studies, but it will also bring some ideas and concepts and case studies from urban studies, from digital design, and from kind of more architecture design related areas, and also little bits of more kind of computer science informed data science approaches to digital cities. So it's very interdisciplinary, and it also takes very much a global perspective. So we won't just be looking at British cities or European cities, but the students can very much choose which kind of cities they would like to focus on. And through choosing specific case studies every week, you can kind of cast your focus around the globe and decide whether you're interested more in kind of Western metropolis, or those maybe in emerging countries such as China, or indeed more in kind of third world countries, and look how digital cities are very different around the globe as well. And then the last thing to say is that we're also looking at different sensory modalities. So yes, visual culture is a big part of it, data culture is a big part of it, but we'll also be looking how we engage with digital cities through sound and through touch, and how it's really a multisensory engagement. And then I've just got a few topics on these slides. So there'll be kind of general discussion around what digital cities actually are, what the big kind of catchphrase of smart cities actually means, and how some of the debates and discourses around digital cities and smart cities are phrased, how they relate to other discourses, for example, around the sustainability of our cities, and what does it mean that our cities are becoming more intelligent. There'll be a range of concepts that we look at, for example, concepts around hybrid space. So now we have more and more virtual reality around us, artificial reality around us, where we look through our phones at our cities, experience the city through the video stream, our cameras, and have additional digital material added to that. So how are those designed and how are those experienced? And here's an example on this slide to show you just what a difference it makes when we're using mobile digital technologies, when we're experiencing our surroundings, what it does to our bodies, what it does to our senses. And another topic, just to give you a little bit of a flavour, is around how games engage with digital cities, hybrid reality games, urban reality games. So for example, in Brighton here we have Blast Theory, one of the best known mobile game design groups around the world, really. So those are some of the case studies that you might engage with. Or last year, a lot of the students chose to engage with Pokemon Go, which was called, of course, a big moment for playful engagement with digital cities. And then we had a session on drones as well last year that was very popular, so that might come back this year, at looking at how drones really have a big impact on the future of digital cities. Public displays and open screens, I mentioned that already earlier. That's one of the ways how we can kind of interrogate how digital cities are designed and experienced, and how kind of commercial and creative aspects of that play a role. And then the last thing to say, sound, yes, I already mentioned that one. Let's move on. Notions of public and private space is a big part of the discussions, and how that is related to the media we use, but I want to talk about assessments really. There we are. So on this module there are two assessments. The first one is a reflexive blog, and the second one you can choose between critical analysis and critical practice. The reflexive blog means that every week a student would pick a specific case study that they are interested in. That could be an artwork, that could be a public screen, it could be an interactive installation, and you will have guidance on how to find those case studies from blogs and websites and so on. And you will then use the readings that you prepared for that week to critically analyze that specific case study. And then the outcome of that analysis you will put into a 300-word blog post on the digital media blog. And then you can read each other's pieces every week, and you comment on each other's blog posts. So that's kind of the ongoing engagement throughout the module, and how you will engage with each other's case studies and the analysis. So this module runs as an online module if more students are online, and it runs face-to-face if more students are offline. So we've been running it in both modes over the last couple of years, few years. And then for the second assessment, that's already the reflexive blog I mentioned, and then for the second assessment you have a choice. So if you're more interested in writing, critical writing, you can choose to write a 4,000 to 5,000 word critical analysis where you really go into detail about a case study that you're really interested in. Could be one that you already introduced on the blog, and you make really detailed links to some of the broader concepts and theories from the module. But you also have a choice to go for critical practice for your critical assignment. So if you want to give it a go to create something practical, or if you're already a practitioner and want to bring in your practice into this module, you can also create a critical practice piece that engages with specific themes from the Digital Cities module. And that would be accompanied by a 1,000-word critical reflection where you bring in some more of the theory. So this, students have done lots of critical practice and lots of critical writing, so both of those options have been very popular on this module. And it's always a really interesting one to kind of see which aspects of Digital Cities students are interested in, and really good discussions also between the students. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Frauke. Semester 2 module, Big Data, Culture and Society. And this is a module where we critically look at big data advancements. We critically try to understand what it means to be surrounded by all these data. So we try to introduce and to get very familiar with the debates, the current contemporary debates that are out there in media studies, in social sciences, in the humanities. Almost all disciplines have in some way or another engaged in with big data at this point. But we will mostly focus in debates that are coming from the critical data studies disciplinary field. So we will try to examine the ways in which the debates about the impact of data and smart technologies more generally in our lives have a broader influence in social theory, basically, and in cultural studies and media practice, creative practice, and also in art practice, because increasingly creative workers and artists are engaging with questions around big data, and this is something we will explore in this module. So although it is it's a heavily theoretical module, at the same time, as you will see from the assessments, its approach is a more hands-on approach to questioning through creative media practice. So we'll be looking at contemporary debates around the social, the cultural, and the ethical dimensions of big data. And what you will learn are the necessary, as I think it, creative, theoretical, and research skills that will enable you to research and to understand these dynamics, the new dynamics that are emerging because of big data, but also generally small data, and also all kinds of data that are out there, the personal data that are being collected from our devices, from our smartwatches, or from our mobile phones, but also the passive data that are being collected from our surveillance issues and privacy issues that may arise from these. We're also going to be looking particularly at data cultures and media practices such as hacktivism and the quantified self. I myself have done some research on the quantified self and around wearable technologies. I've been over to San Francisco and talked to people that are active in the quantified self group. We're going to be looking at this material as well, this research material. And we're going to do that by looking at key texts, key theoretical texts, so reading theoretical texts from journals and book chapters, but also we're going to be looking at cases as they emerge in blogs and in the literature, in the online literature, as they come in on social media, for example, and various debates that are happening now. For example, now the debates have all turned around artificial intelligence. So there is a lot going on around artificial intelligence, about the ethical implications of artificial intelligence, and how we need to have ethical guidelines about the operation of artificial intelligence, for example, and algorithmic algorithms that are predicting, for example, whether you're going to have a divorce in the next 10 years, or you can actually get a loan, or your immigration status, or things like that, that may be limiting your mobility around Europe or in the world, and have other kinds of implications in your everyday lives. So my kind of invitation to you will be to see how we can imagine the future with all these developments in data and big data, but also how we can imagine livable futures, so futures where we can actually live in and operate in a harmonious and way where social justice issues are not as pressing as they are today. So nice utopian futures, but also dystopian futures. How do you imagine the future with these data technologies? There is a required reading that is The Circle, Dave Eggers' The Circle. So maybe you have already watched the movie with Tom Hanks, but for me it's important to read the book, and so we're starting with the book, and of course we can talk about the film, but it's from the book that we're going to be raising certain questions and concerns and linking it to the reality, because Dave Eggers wrote this book back in 2014, and this, a few years have passed, and things have changed, but some things that seemed like science fiction at that point have become a stark reality now. So our learning objectives in this module are to be able to analyze complex ethical and social issues that arise from the proliferation of big data, using the relevant concepts and the theories from an integration of sociological, media and cultural studies. Secondly, to critically engage with the ways in which data visualization and design, but also data cultures and practices problematize these key issues of our times, and also to apply the general methodological skills and concepts relating to big data to the study of more specific thematic areas that are more of your own interest, like digital health, for example, or fitness, or urban space, or governance, whatever you find more interesting as you progress in your study. Okay, the assessment is a little bit unusual, so I'll just give an overview now, but as when you take the module, we will have plenty of time to explain exactly what this is. So there is a data future scenario that you will be invited to create. So a scenario about a future with data. So you will be asked to create a practical work, and this will be using your existing production skills. So whatever you're good at, you can create a podcast or a video or a glitch art piece, or it can be an interactive map. It can be anything. We can discuss about what this can be. Or it can just be a blog post with, with a combination of audio and visual elements. And you will have to accompany this and ground what you've done in your practical in your report. The report is very short, it's just 1,000 words, but it will need to somehow, talk about the theoretical implications and the framework of your practical. So let's say, for example, that you create some kind of small online mashup where you have a video of yourself kind of doing a diary from the future where everything is data related, and your smart home has broken down and you can't do anything by yourself, for example, and you're narrating this. This kind of thing could be something that you can do, so some kind of diary from the future, but then you will still have to do a report where you kind of engage with the theoretical concepts and the literature, where you explain how you came to create this practical piece. Yeah. So that's one assignment that you will do sometime mid-term, and then at the end of the term you have to do just a traditional final essay. This is a 3,500 word essay, and this will give you an opportunity to write using the theoretical concepts that you have explored during the module, and to apply these key concepts in a case study of your choice. So it can be, you can choose what you want to talk about. I've given some, some basic examples here. You could talk about, surveillance and data, or data valence as we call it, or you can choose to talk about wearable technologies and fashion, for example, so new garments that, embed wearable technologies on them and have sensors on them. It can be anything you like, as long as it is a theoretical essay.
Hi, I'm Sasha. Am I talking into this camera, by the way?
Yeah, we can both cameras.
Not done this before. So I work in the school office. I think I've spoken to some of you already. I'm available Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and can answer any questions for you, basically. Any queries you have about your course through the academic year. If I can't answer them, I will help direct you in the right place. Certain things we don't deal with. We don't deal with fees or finance in the school office, but I can give you the contact numbers of where to go for that kind of information. I deal with certain elements of your student records, but not all of them. So again, I can point you in the right direction about those things. But yeah, please come to me anytime. I'm available by email, or if you are on campus, obviously you can stop in Monday to Friday. And just, yeah, I'm first point of call, if you like. If you can't get hold of your tutors, ask me, and hopefully I can help you.
Morning, my name's Tom. I work in the library, the Aldrich Library here on the Walscombe campus. I'm going to be talking to you today about information services. So this is a welcome introduction to the Information Services Department. Just to let you know who we are and what we do and how we can help you. I know there's a more in-depth library session plan for later in the term, which will kind of go into more detail about literature searching and resources and that kind of thing, but for now it's just sort of an introduction really to what we can help you. So information services covers the libraries, the computer services, media services, reprographics and print services, and also study support and training. So the department, so in terms of the libraries, it's how you can access the resources that support your studies, as well as reading lists and the online library. Again, managing computers and computer facilities, media services such as the photographic and audio and TV studios, and we also look after the Unicard services. The best place to access all this information is the Information Services homepage, and this is where you'll find everything that we're going to talk about today. So this contains all information about our services and facilities, as well as opening times of libraries, study support, training sessions that we offer, specialist printing, computer first aid clinics, sort of things like that. And so the next slide, thank you. If you just, yeah, okay. So this is about the Unicard, which hopefully you collected up, I'm not sure, but so the Unicard is used, it's proof of enrolment, it's used to access buildings, it's also your library card, and you can pay fines on it. You also use it to credit your printing account, and just as a warning, if you do lose it, there's a £10 replacement cost. So you can use your Unicard again for membership, as well as what I've just outlined, membership of Brighton Sport, to get IT consumables from the computer store, as well as for printing, binding and photocopying at the reprographics team. Another thing you can do is set up your Unicard account, either your Unicard purse. and you need to use the terminals inside the libraries and university restaurants to do this. This means that if you're on campus, you can get 10% off food and drink at university catering outlets, as well as purchases in student union shop. And again, for more information about this, visit the Information Services website. So next slide, please. So here's some more information about the computers and media centres. So there are open access computers in the libraries and in dedicated computer rooms at all main sites of the university. So for this campus, that's Watts, Cockcroft and Aldwych. You can book a computer online using the PC booking system, and all computers have standard software installed. You can also loan audio-visual equipment from Grand Parade and Eastbourne campuses. And there's also access to an audio studio, photographic studio, TV studio, and edit suites on the Morecambe campus. Next slide, please. So here's some information. Again, it's about connecting to the wireless network, EduRoam. I know there have been a few problems with that recently, but that's something that you'll find extremely useful when you're working on this campus and other campuses. You'll need your username with the app brighton.ac.uk and then the password that you use to log on to the university network. It's also really another sort of useful tool is to download the Office 365 software suite. This includes your university email, which we all correspondence from the library and the university will go there. So it's important that you set that up and check it, or if not, kind of get it to forward onto another library, another email account. And you're also entitled to antivirus software. If you do have any problems with your computer, we do have computer clinics, which are on this campus. They're held Tuesdays at the Aldwych Library and Thursdays in the Cockcroft building. And again, if you do have any IT issues at all, then contact the service desk. They're very good, very responsive. So that's something you can do. Next slide, please. So here's a bit more information about the library. So there are 5 site libraries. There's the Aldwych Library in the Morecambe campus, Queenwood, Eastbourne, Falmer Library, St Peter's House, which is in Grand Parade, and the University of the Hastings campus library. And you're able to use all those libraries as a member of the University of Brighton. So these libraries contain sort of books, journals, and audio-visual material. There's also a variety of study spaces for both sort of quiet and collaborative learning. And again, you can borrow and return books from any of these libraries. And here's just a map to the Aldwych Library, just to help you find there. And also sort of details of how to contact us. There's, again, there's a dedicated email. If you have sort of subject-specific inquiries, you can use the Aldwych Media at brighton.ac.uk address. And this will go directly to one of the subjects librarians who covers the School of Media. So the Aldwych Library stocks a broad range of books and other materials relevant to your studies, and it sort of should cover all aspects of media studies. There are information advisors based at each campus, and these coordinate the provision and access to resources through both the sort of physical libraries but also the online library. And yeah, next slide please. And here's just the opening times for the Aldwych Library. So during the autumn term, the library will open until midnight, 7 days a week. During the spring and summer terms, the opening hours will extend to 24 hours or 5 days a week, but there's more information about this and up-to-date information about opening times again that's on the Information Services website. So sort of check these pages for anything that's going on really. In terms of borrowing from libraries, there are self-issue machines at all sites, and you can borrow up to 20 items at any one time. So a variety of loan periods are 3 weeks, 7 days, and also desk loans, which you can have for half a day. There are automatic renewals on the 3-week and 7-day loans. And these will renew automatically unless they've been requested by another user. You'll get email notifications sent to your uni email accounts to let you know when books have been renewed, so sort of make sure you keep an eye on that to avoid getting any fines. We also offer a postal service for distance learners, and it's possible to reserve books online if they're not available on the shelves. And you can also get books transferred from the other site library, so you don't have to visit those libraries, you can get the books sent there. Or something that might be of interest as well to you as your postgrads is the interlibrary loans allocation. So as postgrad students, you're allowed 15 interlibrary loan requests a year. So this is if you're after a journal article or a book that we don't have in the library, you can put an interlibrary loan request in, and we'll get sometimes an electronic copy or a scan of the journal or book chapter that you need. So that's a useful service to be aware of. This is just an example of some of the ways you can access the resources. So we have the online library. This searches across our print and online library resources, and it's the most sort of comprehensive search in one go, and it covers the widest range of subjects. So search results will include books, book chapters, journals, journal articles, newspaper articles, as well as our institutional repository and more. The library catalogue, which is part of the One Search, just searches across our print and electronic book and journals collections. So it's basically, this is the catalogue of physical items located in our libraries, but it does also include the online books and journals that we have. But all items in the library catalogue are included in One Search. If you use the library catalogue, you can log into the My Account function, and this is a way of keeping track of your loans and sort of requesting any books that we need as well. Something that's incredibly useful is the subject guides. So these are guides that have been curated by the subject librarians to include the most relevant resources for your studies. So there's a media studies section. You can follow the link to the subject guides on Student Central, or on the library homepage there's a link that will take you to the subject guides. And this is sort of an easy way to access sort of relevant online resources such as websites, databases, image databases, as well as box of broadcasts, which will be extremely useful for your studies. If you do come in to visit the library, we've used the Wallamy app, which is an app that you can use to explore the library. It's an orientation tool designed to introduce you to some of the services we provide, sort of where and how you can find things. So if you are in the library, there are posters about this, and the app can be downloaded from the usual App Store, Google Play, places like that. Printing on campus. So you can print using the multiple function devices which can print, copy and scan, which you'll find in all the libraries, as well as in the open access computer rooms and school computer labs. You can also print from mobile devices using the mobile web print service app. You'll need to make sure that you've got enough credit on your uni card to do this. And if you have any problems, contact the printing support team. Printing costs at A4 black and white is 4p, and A4 colour is 20p, just to give you an idea of that. And then here's some details about the reprographic services. So if you need to print sort of large format items, posters, or sort of more sort of higher quality, sort of photo quality stuff, or anything sort of writing dissertations, printing larger documents, you can go to the reprographics print services. They're located in Moulscombe, in the Cockcroft building, and also in Grand Parade. And here's a little bit about Student Central. Hopefully you'll have some familiarity with that from sort of enrolling and registering. So Student Central is sort of the online learning environment that the university uses. It's where you'll find your personalised timetables, your course information, access to subject guides and your uni email, as well as how to get hold of the free software, the sort of Microsoft Office 365 that was mentioned, as well as other tools. You can also top up your uni card through your Student Central account. So you can access your personal information there, so you can update your address or sort of password, any details like that. You can also access the online library from Student Central, the academic study kit, which is it's a sort of study skills and methods service that's used to develop effectively your study techniques, and other online resources from there. And also, it's the main way you'll access your studies and course material as well. So this is where the Studies tab on Student Central is really useful. So as you can see from the slides, it's how you access your course modules, as well as sort of support related to that. There's a help and advice tab. It's got your reading lists and links to the online library. You can also email other students on your module. It's where you will submit online work and assessments for your module. And something sort of useful to know is on the Student Central login page there are help tutorial videos. So if you do have any problems, you can use these there where it says using Student Central. And this just outlines sort of more of the digital toolkit that you're able to access and use as students at the university. So this is the sort of the gateway to useful online tools. So we've sort of discussed Student Central as one of the resources you can use. There's also the Blackboard mobile app, which is the app version of Student Central. But if you use this, be aware that the turn it in function doesn't work on that. There's also, again, information about Office 365, online note-taking tools, Student Folio, which is an online e-portfolio tool which you can use to sort of bring together all your work. So this can be used as kind of a sort of career and professional development tool to keep together sort of video, material, text, all kinds of output that you might be doing. And yeah, again, it mentions any sort of help with this that you need. There's the service desk email, which is very useful. So you might be aware of the Start Connected campaign that's been going on at the university at the moment. So these are sort of the 5 most important things that you need to get set up in order to sort of hit the ground running at the university. So sort of connecting to the Wi-Fi, get your own Wi-Fi, downloading the Microsoft Office suite, getting your uni card set up, discovering your reading list, so this is through Student Central, and you can also follow your library using the Start Connected hashtag, and there are sort of Facebook and Twitter pages for that. And just finally, there's obviously a lot of information that I've just given to you. The main thing to take away is that we're here to help information services and the libraries, and you can always get help. These are sort of the variety of ways you can do that: help desks in the library, contacting the service desk, computer first aid clinics. There are also student helpers, which you should see around. They'll be wearing blue t-shirts. Another useful resource is lynda.com, which has online video-based training courses and tutorials which you're allowed to access as a university student. If you need any help using library resources, we offer bookable one-to-one and group sessions. So you can email the Aldrich Media email address and we'll get back to you about that. Again, all this information is on the Information Services homepage, and this presentation will also be put on Student Central. Thank you.